I'm Dana K. White of slobcomesclean.com, and today I'm going to give an example of how the container concept helps me see my stuff differently, and how using the container concept helps me make difficult decluttering decisions. Okay? It helps me identify what's important and helps me be willing to let go of things that are less important. Okay, so the example comes from as I was working in my garage. Our goal was to be able to park our cars in there. So everything needed to leave, but also about 8 months before the day that I made these decluttering decisions, we had moved, and these were the last things, and I was determined that nothing was gonna come into my home and not have an actual place to be, okay? So, came across a box, opened it up. In that box were things that at first glance, I was like, well, of course I need this. There were scripts and things that I used when I was a theater arts teacher. And I have used those things over the years as random people in my life come to me and say, hey, I need a monologue for such and such. Do you have anything? So yes, I knew that this was something I needed, but I thought, okay, if I'm gonna take this into my house, if I'm gonna give it a spot, sure wish I had something prettier than this box. And I looked around and I saw this blue box. And I thought, well, that would be a pretty thing. I'm gonna have to open it up and look inside anyway, because that's one of my decluttering rules, is I have to look inside of everything to find out, oh, this is important stuff, or it's filled with, random junk from 3 moves ago or whatever. So I decided I'm going to look inside this, see if maybe this would be something that I could use to put this stuff in. I looked inside, there was some other theater type things in there, and it wasn't very full. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna take the stuff from this box, put it in a prettier box, and then go take it to the place where I would look for it first. Well, a box is such a natural, lovely container. Well, the purpose of a container, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch this video where I explain it. The purpose of a container is to serve as a limit, which really helps my brain that if I don't have limits, I would just keep everything, because I would just tell myself, is that something good? Sure, it's something good. Is that something fun? Sure, it's something fun. Is that something that could be useful one day? Sure it is. Instead, I have to have limits, or otherwise I would keep everything, which is what I used to do, and my house was out of control because I had way too much stuff, okay? So, such a nice, lovely limit. And so I decided, well, before I put stuff in there, I'm just gonna look through this and see, is there anything that obviously needs to go? Because I wanna use this box for a certain purpose. And so I'm probably gonna need to, open up some space in here. Well, as I look through there, just looking helped me reveal, oh, there's a bunch of playbills in here, which at first glance, I'm like, well, playbills. I was a theater person, okay. And then I went, yeah, I've never seen Evita on stage. These were someone else's playbills. And then I looked through the others and I was like, oh yeah, I've never seen any of these plays. Somebody, I'm sure, was decluttering their own stuff and thought, you know who would love this theater stuff that I kept but I don't need? Dana. Dana would love that. She taught theater, probably gave them to me when I did teach theater. Who knows? But they had given me these things. They had sat in this box. And so just looking and knowing that my space is limited helped me see, oh, a lot of this stuff in here obviously needs to go. Like, there is literally no reason for me to keep these. These are not even my memories. Okay, so I don't need them taking up space in my home. So I pulled some things out. One of the things I left in there was a book, Creative Direction. I was like, okay, yeah, well, this is a book that would probably be good to have, and it has to do with theater stuff, so I'll leave it in here. And then I took the things out of the box that I wanted to get rid of because it wasn't pretty, and I put it into this space, and it almost fit. Just almost fit, just a ooch, just a little bit over the top. But for me to be able to close this box, to put the pretty little lid on it, I needed to get rid of some stuff because the box is a container. And when I view it that way, then I go, okay, well, is there anything in here that is less deserving to be in here than these, scripts and things that I know for sure? Yes, I do want to keep those. So I let the box make those hard decisions. And when I looked at it that way, I realized, oh, well, that Creative Direction book, I don't actually need that. I don't actually think I would ever go looking for this. And so then it was easy to get rid of that because I was viewing the box as a limit and I let it help me make those decisions. Where if I'm just deciding whether or not I want to keep something, of course I want to keep that book. But when I view the space that it has to go in as a limit, then it's like, oh, okay, wait, I don't actually need this. And then I looked through the stuff that was in there so that I could get rid of it. Where before it had been a stack of stuff, now I'm looking through it saying, what can I easily get rid of in order to make it fit into the space? And that's when I found things like professional development certificates from when I used to teach over 20 years ago. Yeah, I don't need that. I'm sorry, I don't. But when it was just stuff going in a box, I hadn't actually gone through and looked at every individual item to find out that, oh, there's more in here than just the scripts that I know I want to keep, that I just assumed everything in there was a script. But once I have to fit it within the limit of the container of this box, then I actually go through and I'm like, oh yeah, this can easily go. So I took those out. I took out some of my teaching stuff where I was like, you know what, if I ever did go back to teaching, which I can't imagine that happening, but even if I did, yes, I would come looking for these monologues, but I would rewrite and probably use different clip art or no clip art because it's 20 years later, y'all. And is clip art still a thing? I guess it is. Anyway, whatever, I would rewrite this and I would definitely not use Comic Sans. I mean, I've learned. I really liked Comic Sans until I heard people saying, oh my word, Comic Sans? Who uses that? And then I was like, okay, well, don't use that, Dana. Note to self. So I would rewrite this. I would come up with new class welcome rules, whatever this was, and I would not use Comic Sans. So that in and of itself made it a super easy decision because there's a limit here. Where before it was like, oh yeah, things can stay. But no, something has to go because of the size of the container, because it is a limit. And then that reveals to me, oh, these things actually have no emotion to them or have way less emotion to them than these other things that I think I could use someday. So once I got it down to where it actually fit, like now the box will close, then I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna go take it to where, you know, I would look for this first, which I know exactly where that was, but I'm gonna clean it first, right? Okay, so how long did all this take? Well, I have this video when it was 12:35. At 12:38, it was all much cleaner and nicer. It's still an old box, but it's not gross anymore. So I got it all cleaned up and then I was able to take it to the place where I would look for it first. And now those things are in their final home and they're not just kind of floating around my house as, oh, I know I've got some theater stuff somewhere. No, I have a defined space. And if I find more theater stuff, which there's a really good chance that I will, well, then I will go to this same container and say, okay, I need to make space for this stuff that I want to keep. And so what in here is less container worthy than this stuff that I do want to keep? And then it'll be a process for me to go through because I don't need boxes and boxes and rooms full of theater art stuff when I don't teach theater arts anymore. Okay, that's not my life anymore. It's been 20 years. Do I like to have that stuff? Yeah, I want to have it. And as long as I have the space for it, I can. But it's not just something I'm going to just randomly say, oh, I keep all of this. Instead, I have to say, where in my home would I look for it first and what is the limit of that space? And this box is a nice, pretty little limit. Okay, I hope that was helpful and not too confusing. I'll talk to you later. Bye.